Yo, this hot, this the spot, there it is, pod.com. We're interviewing the best comedians, so tune in quick and get your ears receiving them. We talking about life and life to stream right to you, from the microphone right to your home, dude. Side note, this might get embarrassing, but no, don't sweat, yo, cause there it is.
Welcome to the There It Is podcast, America's podcast, where we help you find your inspiration. I'm your host, Jason Farr. Let's do this. Thanks so much for joining us. Great guest today. It's Cheryl Horne. But first, a little info. We have been nominated for the podcast awards, and someone recently very sweetly asked if we knew if we won yet, and very thoughtful of them to ask. It was actually a previous guest, Colin Batten. Very nice, very funny, talented guy. But we don't know yet if we have won an award for the podcast awards. You have to wait to hear that with me. I will know that on September 30th. That's when the telecast, or it's not really a telecast, a webcast, is going to be. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we win something. But thank you so much for your support and getting us nominated in so many categories. That was really cool. Well, okay, on to today's episode. It's with my pal, Cheryl Horne. She's really great. I met her at the Magnet, and she's super funny. This is a very sweet chat. So let's just get right to it. Here's my chat with Cheryl Horne.
I feel like anyone who doesn't live here assumes that that's all we do, but I feel I've talked to more New Yorkers that don't do anything touristy ever. It feels like sacrilegious. And so when you get to, there's so many things in the city I haven't seen. It's sad because I've seen other parts of the world, but like in my own backyard, I've seen one thing. Did I see the Statue of Liberty? Maybe the MoMA. I think that's it.
I can understand that. I mean, when you live here, yeah, you don't. It's probably more like, yeah, I'll get around to it eventually. But
Exactly. It's always at my fingertips.
yeah, you grew up in New York.
Yes, I grew up in Long Island in Wheatley Heights. So Long Island is split into Suffolk County and Nassau County.
Mm-hmm.
Nassau County is closer to Manhattan, and then Suffolk County is like, you think of like, I don't know. I wouldn't say deep woods, but like kind of like that. And I'm on the cusp. So when I tell people Long Island, they always have like, there's always a host of questions that follows, like what part of Long Island? And then
Right.
you say the town, and my town no one's heard of, so I have to like, it's between this and this, and then even if they haven't heard of it, they go, oh, okay, and then we just kind of move on.
Yeah, I totally get that. I mean, when the farther you go down in Long Island, the more it's like, this is like anywhere in America and not like so New York City.
Exactly. Yep, definitely. Yeah, it feels. I guess every town can have a different feel, but Long Island feels very like outside of the city.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
And I think purposefully so. I think that's where a lot of people are like, I'm going to raise my kids here.
in the suburb. Yeah, this is a respite from all the hubble and bubble in the city.
Right.
You have okay. I see the Fitbit.
Yeah, I had
How many
like,
steps do you do?
in the before times, it was at least close to 10,000 steps
Okay,
before, just taking a trip to the Magnet to do a show
sure. Yeah.
and not going anywhere else really, that I could get 10,000 steps out of that. Now it's probably like where am I at right now? The only time I went out today was to pick up pizza. Yeah, so I'm at 2,700 steps.
Okay.
That's nothing.
Yeah, I'm at 37, and I thought I did a lot. I thought I was gonna be like showing off, but this is embarrassing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild.
I love when people call it the before times. I haven't used it yet, but I really want to start incorporating that into my vocabulary in the before times. It sounds so like historical. You're about to tell some epic story. A time before masks.
Yeah, this is gonna be our Great Depression. It's gonna last a couple of years to get out of it, I think.
Yeah,
It wouldn't
for
have
sure.
to if everyone just wore a mask.
Talk about it. Preach, Jason. I know. It's crazy. I was looking around today, and like people are still not doing it. It's just like still. I know the rules were lifted. Maybe I don't even remember. Everything's still like such a bubble of nonsense. But the rules were lifted, but now cases are going up. So do you really need someone to tell you to wear a mask to prevent? It's crazy.
Yeah, people are bizarre. they don't like to be told things, but then like
Yes.
when it goes bad, they're like, well, why didn't anyone tell me? Like the
This is
first
your fault.
someone's gonna go to a show or go to some place faking
Uh-huh.
that they've been vaccinated, and then they're gonna get COVID, and they're gonna be the first to sue.
Oh
The
my
person who
gosh.
faked that they got vaccinated is
Oh
gonna be
yeah. I know
so
that
litigious.
there's so many moments in the past year and a half where it's like that's a thing. Like people are paying $300 for fake vaccination cards and the vaccination's free.
Yeah,
Got it. Okay.
yeah, so bizarre.
Yeah.
During COVID, were you performing much? I know you were you're performing with Jim, so I know you're doing some of those online shows, right?
No, so I'm not with Gem.
Oh, I
I
thought you
did a
were.
few. No, no, no. I'm no longer with. I'm the artist formerly known as a member of Gem. I was on Gem, but I'm not on Gem anymore. I am. I haven't done actually. My last show with Gem was, if you can think back, I'm gonna use it. Ready to the before times. Um, my last show with Jem was our last time in the theater, and I say think back to the before times because no one knew exactly what was going to happen.
Right.
Um, but that was my last performance with Jem, and I remember talking to Michael, who's obviously the musical director
Artistic
or
director,
the
musical
director,
director, yeah.
Yes. And he's like, yeah, we're probably going to be in quarantine maybe 2 weeks. And we all thought that. And
Mhm.
now we're just like laughing at ourselves, like, ha, 2 weeks. That's not a reality. But that was my last time doing musical improv um, up until I sat in with Premiere about a month ago. But I hadn't done musical improv in over a year and a half. So the last time I didn't do any musical improv online. I just did my final Gem show in person, and then I did the show a month ago. And I'm like, one thing the this experience taught me personally is like how much I value the little thing. Like improv to me was something that I just did. It was like, yeah, I do it after work, and I catch a train, and I go back, and it's a fun thing that I was able to discover. Um, but it's not just that. Like I value it. I need it.
Mhm.
To think about the time I spent without it, it's like it's wild. It's really wild.
For sure. I've been doing it pretty regularly for so many years now that when people take breaks or talk about taking breaks, I'm like, when do people do that? You
Right.
know,
Like
like,
where
is
they
that
do
a
that? What?
thing?
Yeah. It's like a big how. I was able to do a Shakespearean digital production of A Midsummer Night's Dream.
Mhm.
Elon Kaplan put it on. We did a completely virtual show, a Shakespearean show, and it was amazing. There were costumes, there was set design, there was music, backdrops, like, but all the little details you have to put into like building a set, he was putting into making sure that your name is removed from the bottom, so that's not a distraction. Make sure that there's no background noise. It's yeah, the new age of everything.
Yep.
How happy some or other some can be. Through Athens I am thought as fair as she. But what of that? Demetrius thinks not so. He will not know what all but he do know. Love looks not with the eyes, but with the mind.
You studied musical theater in high school and college, right?
Mm-hmm. I
So
did.
so you've been wanting to do this kind of stuff for a long time.
Forever,
Yeah.
forever. It's one of those things where you want to do it, and then you start studying different things, but it doesn't go away.
Mhm.
There's never a time when I'm looking at a Broadway show or just any show. Honestly, it could be something on YouTube. And before I found the Magnet Theater, before I found improv, it was just something I wanted to do, but it really didn't have unless I really committed myself fully to it, which I wasn't in a position to do. I didn't have access to it.
Mhm.
So when I talk about improv to people who aren't familiar with it, I always say like it's perfect. Like I get that musical theater fix, but there are no lines, there are no costumes, there's no like we have rehearsals but not rehearsals,
Right,
practice.
right.
Like,
It's not as intense as a play
hmm
rehearsal.
right. Have you heard how do you rehearse? How do you rehearse for improv? Have you heard
Yeah, and I'm
that?
like, "Well, how do you practice basketball?" You know, it's like
Right.
you do the fundamentals again and again and again.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
we just do what the show is a bunch.
Mm-hmm.
It's not.
Sassy answer. I'm gonna steal that. I don't know what I say. I didn't have so much angst in my voice when I say it, but now you've seen a basketball game, right? That's my new response.
But it is, yeah, no, that is a very common question. It is like, all right, I get it. You haven't done this before, but
Right. Right.
what would you guess?
Yeah. Take. Yeah. I think I always say like just getting yourself used to doing it, so it's not your first time ever
Right,
doing the thing on stage. Yeah.
right. Yeah, I think people can't, because it's happening on a stage, people can't divorce it from a play,
Yes.
from the
Oh
concept of a
yes.
play. And it's like, okay.
Yes.
And they,
Especially if it's done in a way that's like impressive. Like that was staged. That was totally staged. That was
yeah, and that's
planned.
the thing I was about to
Uh-huh.
say is that I think it's a lot of people really just finding a way to say, but you're not really making it up, right? You memorize something, right? It's like,
Yes.
nope, it's
Yep. It's the lean in, the squinted eye. Come
not.
on. You didn't really. Yeah. That's a compliment, I guess, for an improviser. You
Yeah,
wrote
they
that.
don't mean it as a compliment, but it ends up
No, they
being
don't
one.
know. They don't need to know. It's a compliment. That's how we take it.
When you did find Magnet and you start studying there,
Mhm.
I assume you were like, okay, I found the place now that I can do it as an adult.
Yes. That's exactly what it was. It's like certain improv terms, like let's play together. Those are not things that you say as a grown up. And if you say it as a grown up, you mean something completely different. So, so like those things were new, but it was exactly that. It's like you get to play make believe and you get to pretend to be anyone you want and be silly. And you're not the only like goofball being silly. There's a community of other super silly people that are just pushing you to be even sillier.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was so grateful when I found. I think okay, so my magnet origin story is it was my 24th. I want to say my 24th birthday, and when I was younger, going to the city was a big deal. It was like we're gonna take the hour-long Long Island Railroad into it was huge, not huge, but like it was a thing. Like my whole day was about going to the city, and our plan was to go to the city. I was with Benita. We were gonna go in together.
Mhm.
Benita, my partner in crime, as you
Mhm.
know.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
Benita
we're
Kumar,
inseparable.
which we'll have to mention her again in a minute.
Yes, yes, yes. We'll get into the whole Benita. I don't know about the whole Benita thing. The Benita exists. The whole Benita scandal that everyone knows about that we're not gonna name, but we're gonna like talk around. We'll get into that. um, but yeah, so we went to the city. She surprised me by seeing an improv show. We went to the theater. I had that feeling I told you about where I'm like, I want to be up there. I don't know. I don't fully understand what's going on, but I love this. And then, um, and then for the first time, maybe it wasn't 24. Maybe I was younger. Maybe it was like 21, 22. But for the first time, we bar hopped, and it was a, a it was an experience. Um, yeah, trying to figure out how much more I feel like sharing of that, or how much more I remember to share. Um, okay, I remember there's one part where I remember we went to a bar, and we got we went to a bar, we drank whatever. Then we went to another bar, and at that point, we had already drank too much, but we didn't realize it. So we did that thing where you really feel like you think if you know how an ostrich sticks their head in the sand and they think no one else can see them. It's kind of like that thing where like I thought if I pretended to be super like composed, everyone would believe it. So I remember going up to the bartender and asking for a vodka cran and being like, I'm sure now I think back, I'm sure my eyes are like glassy and hair disheveled, but I really thought I was pulling it off. And then that night we we got a ride to Benita's house. I slept there, and my boyfriend called her and said, like, Cheryl does not drink often. Like, make sure that she doesn't sleep on her back. Oh, and I forgot to mention, we didn't eat that whole day.
Oh my
The
God.
first, yeah. So we're like Twiggy, 24 or 22, whatever, however old, year old, not eating and just going to different places. And he's like, make sure that she doesn't sleep on her back. And then she's like, okay, yeah, I got it. And this is drunk Benito also being like, yeah, I got it. And we decide that since we hadn't eaten all day, the perfect time to eat was at 1 o'clock in the morning when we finally made it home. And so she made this like sandwich, and I must have taken one bite and went to sleep. And I guess I had drank more than she did because I woke up late that morning. She was already on her couch watching TV. I woke up out of her bed. She said hi to me, but I couldn't respond because I had to run downstairs to get water. I had fallen asleep with the unchewed bite of sandwich in my mouth, and it absorbed all the liquid in my mouth.
Wow.
So I had the most like dry mouth on top of dry mouth, and
You're lucky.
yeah,
You
because
did
I
not
definitely
choke to death.
yes, 100%. And the main thing he said was make sure she doesn't fall asleep on her back. It's really make sure she doesn't fall asleep on her back so she doesn't choke on her own vomit. He said nothing about choking on a sandwich. So really,
Right.
that's on him, if you ask me.
Oh my gosh. I mean,
Yes,
but you live to tell the tale, and that's as you drink water now.
Yes, yeah. The story made me thirsty.
Story
The story
really
itself. This
I
is actually an ad for Poland Spring. The importance of hydration. Had I been hydrated earlier in the evening, maybe that wouldn't have happened. But
now I've seen that you performed with North Coast. Were you an official member at one point, or were you just like guesting?
it was like a guest sit-in situation.
Mm-hmm.
But I performed with them for the summer of 2019. Yeah, the summer of 2019, I performed with them, and I love musical theater. I love musical improv. I'm not. I tell everyone I'm not a rapper, but I have that like audition brain where it's like, can you rap? Yeah, of course I can rap. And so that summer I did some rapping, but I was mostly the person that like did the hooks, the musical hooks. I was like the Rihanna in the Drake song.
Here's what I'll do. I'll take care of you.
I was not Drake.
That truth hurts and those lies heal, and you can't sleep thinking that he lies still, so you cry still, tears all in the pillow.
That's my wheelhouse. I can do a really catchy, give me an R&B hook or like a, I don't know, pop rock hook. I can do that, but the rapping I can try.
Yeah. How did you get involved with that?
So I took a Rap the Bridge improv class with Doug Whittick.
Oh, yeah. Previous guest on the podcast.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah. Awesome. So Doug, the founder of North Coast, he did a Rap the Bridge course. And I think I saw one North Coast show, or I saw them perform in like a musical improv festival. And so I was like, we have to take this class. So I took the class, and a few members of GEM also took the class. And because we had been playing together already, being in that class together was just another level of silly. And so I don't remember everything about the class, but I remember at one point we were voguing, and it was just like a whole silly thing. And I think Doug was like, who are you people? How have I been in this community for so long, and I'm just meeting the three? It was Ashley, Beth, and myself. How am I just meeting you guys for the first time? And then from there, I did one of his music videos. You know, Doug does parody videos. He did a music video called Jackson Pollock.
Y'all, this song goes out to everyone who's ever made a mess and said, isn't that beautiful? Jackson Pollock, Jackson Pollock. When I make a mess, I just call it Jackson Pollock. Jackson Pollock, Jackson Pollock. When I don't know what to call it, I just call it Jackson Pollock. Jackson Pollock, Jackson Pollock. When I drop some shit,
And I was literally just looking through pictures of that right before we hopped on here today. But yeah, he did a really funny music video called Jackson Pollock, and I was a part of that. And then from there, he asked me to sit in with North Coast for a few shows, and I ended up doing the whole summer.
Cool. As you mentioned already, you don't see yourself as a rapper, but would you do that again?
I would attempt anything. I feel like I would definitely do it again. I like the idea of rapping. I'm trying to figure out like the less embarrassing way of saying. Like I love. There are certain rappers that I just listen to in awe, like Black Thought from the Tariq Trotter from the Roots.
I told you I'm the rap predator. You insist to imitate what for? Still, I remain mellow. Seeing the theatrics of Othello, but know the tactics of Rumpiello.
Genius, like a freaking genius, and his freestyling abilities is out of this world. A whole nother universe.
He did like what, a 15-minute one or something like that?
Yes.
I'm the new Rakim, maybe I'm Fat Pharaoh. Undergarments of armor be my intimate apparel. Pre-Kardashian Kanye, it's Kafka-esque. His holiness stop the press. That cobalt blue, reminiscent of Maka Rest.
Yes, he did, and I listened to it. Embarrassed to say that I listened to it like once a month.
Nothing to be
I have a long.
It's so good.
I have a comment on there that's gotten a lot of traction that people are constantly like messaging back because someone said something along the lines of like, I wish English teachers respected the art of freestyle and respected the art of rap even more.
And you're an English teacher.
And I am an English teacher, and I'm like, I said something like, should I teach this to my kids? And everyone's like, yes, this is art. This is next level poetry. These are the modern, these are the poets of our time.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Strongly agree. And when I was in high school, they would always make us read this old stuff, and like Shakespeare was cool, but so many things were like, Beowulf or whatever, and it's just like, why do we have to read this? This is not good. There are good things now that they could teach us and break down, and it would engage us so much better. And so I was going to mention that you're an English teacher, because you did mention that improv was not something that you just do after work. It was more than that for you, and I knew that you're an English teacher, so I wanted to ask: do the students know that you do this?
Oh, they know.
Okay.
They know. I'm that person that like. I think I saw a meme on something recently about like an improv meme. It's like something like, how do you know someone does improv? Because they never let you forget. They're constantly bringing it up, and that's me. Improv was on my, like, in the orientation of the job. I mentioned it. I bring it up in conversation, and then on the first slide of my introduction to my students this year, I had a sign that said yes and I explained that I did improv. Some of them knew what it was, some of them didn't, and then I tied it into our class culture and how I explained the concept of yes and, how you take what someone says, you honor it, and you build on it to make it grow into this big, beautiful, hilarious, hopefully hilarious thing. And I said, that's what I want this English class to be. I want it to be a discussion. I want it to be collaborative. I want that sense of community. So when student 1 comments on, shares one of their annotations, student 2 is dialoguing with it and adding on to it. So that concept of yes and I'm trying to bring that into the classroom. So they know. There's no question about like, does this one do improv? Yes. 100%.
Did you end up teaching them the Tariq Trotter?
Not yet. So I'm now teaching at a new school. I taught in Long Island for the last 4 years, and then I made a not career pivot, but I moved on to a new school, and it's a completely different experience. So the previous school was in Long Island. It's a private school, a very interesting teaching model, education model, where all the classes were 1-to-1. And a lot of people, like, their first thought is it like a special education? It really was just, I think the easiest way to explain it is think of like homeschooling, but homeschooling in a educational facility, if that makes any sense. And kids were there for different reasons. Some of them were like school avoidant, and or they had been bullied, so they would never step foot in a traditional looking school. So they came to our school as like a respite. And then for other kids, it was different reasons. One kid had he had a career in snowboarding, and he was working to go pro. And at a traditional school, obviously you're gone. You're in, I don't know, Aspen for 3 months. You're gonna fall behind. But in our school, because it was 1-to-1, he was able to really just stop the lesson until he came back. So and it was also it was a private school, and I was teaching very affluent families, or very affluent community. And now I'm in East Harlem, and I'm teaching predominantly Black and Brown students that come with, all different educational levels and skills and abilities. And it's such a different experience. I've never taught kids that look like me before.
Oh, wow.
Ever. At our private school, we had one Black student in the 4 years I was there, and then nothing else. No Latinx, no Asian, South Asian, Native American. It was just the one that I know of. So I'm teaching all Black and Brown students, and it's exciting. It's exciting because there are certain conversations that I know I'm going to be able to have that I was stifled before, that I couldn't have. Yeah. So the school year just started. I have not taught the Tariq Trotter freestyle yet, but that is on the docket for sure. That's in our poetry unit. No, hands down, no questions asked.
Very cool. You also co-founded Happy Harmonies, which is a charity that you co-founded with Vanita Kumar, which we said we were going to get back to talking about.
She goes by the
Vanita
scandalous
of it all.
Vanita
The scandalous
Kumar.
Vanita.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yes, the Kumar of it all. What is that charity? I understand that you are raising money for homeless communities and hurricane relief victims.
Yeah.
And other disenfranchised groups. But what does the organization do to raise money?
So Happy Harmonies, it has grown and developed and ebbed and flowed over the years. So in 2013, I think it was just around, maybe like right before the holidays, Benita and I were just hanging out, and we're like, we need to do something. Like, we are both passionate about outreach. We're both passionate about disenfranchised communities. What can we do? Why wait for someone to ask us to do something, or why, hop onto something else? Why not start our own thing? And it could start small, and then who knows how it'll grow and develop. And so that year, we encouraged, I love it when we say badgered, but we encouraged our friends and families on social media and at work to donate money to we created a GoFundMe, and we found was it two that year? Maybe it was one that first year. A local homeless shelter. The homeless shelter that we found was it was called Haven House for Women and Children, and it was on Long Island, and we just provided them with a party. So we weren't doing improv at the time. We were just improv comes into play later in the years of Happy Harmonies, but we provided them with a party, and so we cooked food, we had desserts, we had crafts, we got some other of our friends to be volunteers, and we used the money that was donated to we called ahead of time, got the ages of the children there, and we bought gifts, and we just gave them, we did our best to give them as traditional a holiday family experience as possible within the realm of the shelter. And my favorite memory from that was, well, there's two. There's one picture that we took of one of the little girls like giving us a hug, and she had the Santa hat on, and she was like the most excited about everything. But one of my favorite memories was at the end of the event, the caseworker came to us and she said a lot of these families have been in here for some are returned, like they left the shelter and came back for whatever reason, while others had been there for a few months and they've never had any event that brought them all together and got them being silly and like forgetting the circumstance, even if it is just for a few hours. So with that experience, it was like we have to keep going. We have to keep, we have to do it again. And then after that, 2 years we did 2 shelters, and then I think the following year we did join in with another organization called Operation Prom, where we used our platform to get prom dresses, and we didn't do tuxedos, but now that I'm thinking, like, why not tuxedos? Prom dresses from people. Just everyone has like not everyone. A lot of people have a bridesmaid's dress that's in the back of their. I'm looking at a bridesmaid's dress right now in my eye line right now.
Wow.
In the back of their dress, in the back of their closet, they're not using. So they were donated to this organization, and Happy Harmonies stepped in as, I guess, like a co-donator. And shoes, purses, jewelry. Some people donated their services, whether it was like haircuts, nails, you name it, makeup. And it was just that was another like really beautiful event where the girls that came in to pick up their dresses, they didn't know it was donated and they didn't know that this was a quote unquote charity event. And that's I'm getting chills just thinking about it because that is the dream. That's the idea. They don't need to know. They don't need to feel like this is something that's being given to them because of their current position. They went in, this to them, it was a store. They were shopping. They got to try on the dress. That we did like a silly like say yes to the dress kind of moment, and it was just beautiful. And they got to experience prom just like any other teenager should experience prom.
That's really
So
cool.
yeah,
And
yeah,
what a smart idea because I've heard so many women talk about a bridesmaid's dress that really just can't be worn
yes,
at
yeah.
another
Where are you
event.
going?
Yeah, yeah, they're not going somewhere. They need something so formal.
Right.
So why not donate it
Yes. Yeah.
to something
And then
and get
we
it out of your closet?
Yep, and it's going to a good cause. So many people donated. I think people were happy to like take it. I don't want to look at it anymore. And then we did a Valentine's Day event at a nursing home that was near to my heart, and we did the hurricane relief was when the improv came into play.
Mm.
So by that time, I think it was like 2017 um, when Hurricane Maria really ravaged Puerto Rico, and they needed as much support as possible. I couldn't get the year wrong, but they needed as much support as possible. So we partnered with Jake's Diapers, which is a organization that at the time they happened to be stationed in Puerto Rico, and they support it with. They worked with families, but specifically families that had younger children and needed those resources that we take for granted. We walk into Target and we get, people who need they get diapers or wipes. Those items weren't accessible, so we were able to use improv. It was bar prov, but improv nonetheless. And for
Improv
those who don't know,
nonetheless.
bar prov. Yeah, talk about bar prov for a second. Have you done improv in a bar before?
Not really.
Okay.
Not in that kind of setting where there's an audience that's just trying to drink their beer.
Uh huh.
At the bar. No, I've done stand up in that setting a number of
Okay.
times, but more times than I could even guess to make. But let's get into the weeds about musical improv because I've
Okay.
talked a lot on this podcast about improv before and
Yes.
the
Yes.
sort of integrity and principles that people want to have for doing good improv scenes, but I've not really
Mm,
gotten into that sort of discussion with someone in regards to musical improv. So
okay.
when you are doing it musical improv,
Hmm.
what are the principles that you're trying to focus on? What is a way to bring integrity to the scene? Obviously,
Okay.
there's overlap with improv and
Of
musical
course. Yeah.
improv. I mean, you're still doing improv scenes, but when it comes to the musical aspect, what is it that you are really trying to focus on?
I think people always say like, well, first of all, I am a firm believer that musical improv is easier. We could say different, but I think it's a little bit easier than improv because you can go silly bananas and then start singing a song about it. Like you have that break of a song. But I think the difference, or the question was the way, how do you bring authenticity to the stage
Yeah.
when doing musical improv? I think being grounded in who your character is and having a clear want. If I'm channeling our coach Miles, I'm thinking of like, what does your character want? Is what he would probably say, because knowing what your character wants and having a clear idea of what the other characters want, that'll carry you through the scenes so that the songs, of course, there can be like a silly, like, not throwaway, but a silly just because song. But every song should be establishing um, who the character is or where the scene is going. And also with when people do, going back to our previous discussion about like, how do you practice improv? When people do ask, how do you practice improv? It's a little bit easier to answer that for musical improv. I don't have to say like the sassy, like you see basketball, right? I don't have to
Because
jump
people
into that.
know that it's practicing singing and
Yes, yes. And there's also different story forms that
Mhm.
you don't plan ahead necessarily. But once you've trained and you know those story forms, you can feel in the first scene, oh, this is going to be a traditional fairy tale, or this
Mhm.
is going to be like whatever. This is going to be a different type.
It's
You can
basically
feel
knowing the
those.
beats, right? The beats of
Yes,
a
yes.
story. Yeah, which
Mm-hmm.
I
No,
imagine you can lean on your English knowledge.
yeah, it's a traditional hero's journey sometimes. That's
Mhm,
that's what
mhm.
I that's what a well, not traditional, because a traditional hero's journey has a lot of moving pieces like refusal to the call. We have 25 minutes. We don't have time for all of that. But there is sometimes like a meeting the mentor, the failure, and then the arc, the story arc where the hero gets their want. But yeah, definitely knowing those beats and being able to have those beats in mind without planning everything out. Because just like any improv form, once you start planning, the story falls apart. 'Cause,
Yeah.
yeah, you can't write a scene, but you can be aware of where it's going. And then when you're working with super talented performers and you have that synergy going, there's just like this joy that is like, I know what you're about to do. I'm about to do it too. There's been times when I've been on stage with Vanita and we start doing the exact same dance move, undiscussed, unplanned, barely any eye contact, but it's that connection that we have that it's like, oh, yeah, that's where we're going. Got it. And then there's also just like other improv scenes, there's that moment where you like try to out silly each other on stage. And that's either a recipe for a lot of fun or a recipe for a disaster.
Yeah. Well, that is the fun part. I think that I, for one, can get so caught up in like, okay, like have integrity, be good, be a
Yes,
good
yes,
scene partner, that it does take the fun and silliness out of it. For me,
yes.
sometimes when it is just like, hey, let's just be silly and play,
Mm-hmm.
goof around, and a lot of my favorite improvisers are people who will come in and just kind of make a big, bold, silly choice just to sort of like goose you a little bit.
Yes. Yeah. And then, yep. They're forcing you to either like, you obviously have to yes and it, so you have to figure out a way around it. And the joke is like, what are you gonna do now? I've played with both though. Um I play with players who are so nervous that they want the scene to be so good that I
Mhm.
use the metaphor of like the imagery, I guess, of like squeezing something. I'm gonna do a nerdy English teacher thing and make a literature. Okay, so in what is it, of mice and men, George and Lenny. Lenny is the large guy who loves soft things, but he doesn't know his own strength. And so, as they're walking they're like migrant workers, and as they're walking from one job to the next, I think George notices like either something smells or he notices that Lenny's playing with something. And long story short, he has a dead rat in his pocket or a dead mouse in his pocket, and he squeezed it to death because he doesn't know his strength because he loves it so much. And I've seen people do that with improv where you want it to be so good that you're squeezing the life out of it and you don't give it room to just be its own fun, silly thing. Improv is silly, like you said earlier. Like you're an adult playing on stage with invisible characters and costumes with another adult, and it's just supposed to be free and silly. So you have to be able to let go and not take it too seriously, or else it will suck the life out of it.
Yeah, that is a really great way to put it because it does sort of squeeze the joy and fun out of it when it's like,
Yes.
hey, you know, loosen up. We're just having a good time here.
Right. And it's definitely coming from a good place, I'm sure, but
Yeah.
like, yeah, loosen up. Has to be silly. I love the comfort of like Frank, for example, Frank Spitznagel. He's so talented, beyond talented. And sometimes you'll just make one small comment or one small reference and he's playing. And now, so the game is not just with you and the players, the game is with the musicians too, where it's like, you look over at Frank, like, Frank, you're really going to make me do this song? I just mentioned something really silly and you're going to make me do a song about eating snow cones off the floor. And okay, I guess this is what we're doing because I don't have enough time to undo it. So we're just going with it. That kind of comfort is what makes it something, you know, it makes improv something you can be passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, Frank Snagl is the musical director at the Magnet, and he plays piano, and there are a
Yes.
couple of other musicians who will play with him during the
Yes.
musical improv shows, and they're phenomenal performers, wonderful musicians,
Yeah.
and he's really great. And you know, he does have a lot of say in direction of the scenes because he's coming in. For anyone who's seen North Coast, the hip hop improv group, it's just like the beatboxer coming in, like, okay, it's time for a song. I didn't know this was coming right now, but here we go.
You are lucky I stay open late.
When you need the fade, you need the fade.
Now, would you like all of this tapered?
Yes.
Good. That is the correct answer. Did you know that one time I woke up in bed with Bear?
I have heard many tales about you, Igor Koshkov.
You knew about me before you walked by my shop? Did you come for a cut, or did you come to fuck me up?
I came to fuck. You are. I came to fuck. I came to fuck. You. Let me get this ridiculous human suit off me.
Okay, come in here, not to have it made. You don't want a bear cut, a number 2 fade. You do not want to get a haircut at all. You came in here so we can motherfucking brawl.
And I have to roll with the punch. Yeah.
Which I think is one of the things that's so fun about improv in general. In general, what is fun is when the performers are like, all right, I'm going to be lean in my spontaneity here and go for this. But it's always there in musical improv because so many times you see a performer go like, look over at the music and like,
yes,
all right, here it goes.
Yeah.
And they're experiencing that moment with us, with the audience.
Yes, they are the players.
Yeah,
they are players
didn't know it was coming, and they're getting pushed into this in the most fun way possible.
Of course.
Is there a difference doing musical improv with a pianist and musicians playing instruments and a beatboxer? Do you have to adjust at all for those two different styles?
I think, yeah, definitely there is a difference. I feel like I could be wrong, from my experience with someone playing the piano, they're able to maybe catch and like support those if you go off track, because part of the storylines that we practice is also song structures that we practice. There's a tagline song, there's a chorus verse song, a verse chorus song. There's a song of all just chorus, chorus, chorus. No, there's not. And all the musical improv are going to attack me for saying that. I'm sorry, Michael. But there's different song structures. So if you fall off that structure, I feel like someone playing the piano will be able to kind of gently support you up and find your help you find your footing. With a beatboxer, there's a lot more freedom because you're rapping to that beatbox. And for someone who's like on North Coast, everyone on North Coast is super talented. But I'm thinking of like people who have different flow styles. It gives them the freedom to go from one, I don't even know the correct lingo, but from one style to the next. So I think that's the difference, is that with the piano, it's a little bit more supportive, and with the beatbox, there's more allowance and more freedom for you to go from one level to the next, and then maybe you're doing like something fast and slowing it down, and then kind of curbing the brakes and going in a completely different direction. But I wouldn't say one is better than the other. Like it's a completely different thing. And it's cool when they're like some of the North Coast shows, if not all the North Coast. It's been a while. If not all the North Coast shows that I did, there were both. There was both a beatboxer and a accompanist, and I'm sure they were doing the look at each other thing that we just talked about. Like, is this you? Is it me? Is it both of us? Okay, and figuring it out. Yeah.
I've seen a few of their shows, but it was a while ago, so it's maybe before they started using a musician that was playing an instrument.
Yes,
other
gotcha.
than their voice. Beatboxing is playing an instrument.
It is.
They
it
are
is.
a musician, but it's
People will surprise you with their regular voice, and they'll beatbox. It's like, that came out of you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Kayla
it
Milady,
is.
unreal with that. North Coast, previous North Coast beatboxer, unreal with that. This has been a great chat. We are at the end of the interview, but now let's create something together. Let's see. I have an idea here, and I maybe it'll work out. So my idea, because you're an English teacher, and because you were talking about structure and classic structure of things, are there some books that you would recommend people read if they are doing improv and want to understand structure better? Maybe there's a good book that utilizes the hero's journey.
Oh, okay. I
Then
see.
they can think, oh, okay, I get it better now. And that can maybe help them in their show that they're doing to think about the beats.
Yeah.
What's needed or what can be done next.
Right now, all I could think of are like the books I teach, because I've been. It's the first three. This is the first. We're in week 3 of school, so I'm thinking of the books I teach. But there is a book called The Hero's Journey. It's actually it's a screenwriting text by Joseph Campbell.
Okay.
But that's just like to understand like I said, in improv, especially in a 25-minute musical improv show, there's not time to do all those steps, but it does spell out all those steps. And I feel like being aware of, it starts off with like an ordinary world, and you move on to the call to adventure. Usually in an improv show, you go straight to like the crossing the threshold into the show. Yeah, the call to event. But there's other steps in between that if you're aware of it, you can utilize it. Like maybe instead of just going straight into it, you have someone play the mentor, or have someone play the shapeshifter that pretends to be like an ally and they're not. So that's one book just for like structural. But as far as like a story that follows the hero's journey, this is a weird one, but maybe, and again, my brain is teacher pride, so I'm only thinking of books that I teach. But The Great Gatsby is a great book. And we didn't get a chance to talk about it, but we started talking a little bit about books that are like old and books that are a part of the literary canon. And I have gone on rants about the literary canon and how they have their place, and how there's space for more diverse voices. The Great Gatsby is 101 years old. It was written in 1920, I believe. So it is an old book, and it is a part of the literary canon. But that character, you see the character develop, and I would say that shows like someone in chapter 1, he's completely Nick Carraway, the main character, is a completely different person than he was in chapter 8 and chapter 5, and there's parts of the story where you ask yourself, like, do I trust him? And even as a reader, as you're reading his words, you're asking yourself, do I trust him? So that adds some like depth, I guess, to the character, and it adds some mystery for the reader. And I love when I have the opportunity to play a complex character, not like that one-dimensional, I'm evil for the sake of being evil, like when you have those multi-dimensions. So maybe that one. And then there's definitely a better book. And when we end this call, I'm going to text you like, wait, but I didn't say this one. Fiction or nonfiction, doesn't matter.
No.
I mention this book too much, and people are going to think it's the only book I read. And I say this every time I mention this book, Beloved. It's such. Have you read Beloved?
I have not. I know about it.
So that's another book where the main, I guess you can call her the main character, the main character is probably Beloved, but her mother, Sept, she does evil things without giving too much away. She does evil things for a good reason, and maybe like if someone getting into improv were to read that, they'd be able to also develop some more complexity into their characters. There's so many books, and I wish I had like a list in front of me so I could be like this one, that one, this one, that one. But as far I listen to a lot of audiobooks too. Phoebe Robinson has an amazing audiobook. You Can't Touch My Hair, where she talks about comedy, she talks about improv. Amber Ruffin is hilarious. Whitney Cummings. I listen to a lot of women of color, comedian women, actress women, Yvonne Orji, Jennifer. Who's Jennifer from Blackish, the mom? Jennifer.
The mom.
The mom.
But not Tracy Ellis Ross, but.
No, her mother-in-law.
Oh gosh. I'm blinking.
Jennifer Lewis. She's hilarious, and she wrote a book about her whole career.
I didn't know that.
So I think getting into improv, maybe those. Yeah.
Okay. I appreciate you sharing those, because I think a lot of times teams can get stuck on what to do next and where can this show go, or you see a lot of shows and a lot of the scenes have the same beat structure. Because they're seeing maybe a lot of each other perform, and that just gets seeped in your brain somehow. But
of course, there's no way around
learning these different beats and learning how different things are structured can help shake things up.
Yeah. Yes. And speaking of shaking things up, I don't know if that's even a right segue, but Benita and I are on the cast. So another I feel like I'm always on like all female non-binary teams.
The cast is a dope show.
Yeah, cast is amazing, and they have a structure, and yet all their shows are so different. They have that structure of we're in a play, but we're also looking at the backstage moments. But their structure is the same, but the way they go about it is so different because they have such diverse players, different ways of thinking. So
just like movies and TV shows, I mean, the hero's journey is a super common thing.
Yes, absolutely.
But yet it plays out differently. Well, there it is. Cheryl, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Oh my gosh, this was fun. I forgot we were recording.
With last week's episode, this makes for back-to-back musical improv episodes. I hope you enjoyed that. We're about to post the enhanced version of last week's episode with Christine Chan on the YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/thereitis. Be sure to like and subscribe, and also check out that video. We mentioned North Coast a bit. I'd like to have more of them on, but we do have a couple who have been on. Kayla Milady and Douglas Wittick. Both episodes are in the feed. Those are episodes 3 and 8, respectively. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at There It Is Pod, and subscribe to our Comedy Lifestyle newsletter and support us if you can. We have a Patreon and a PayPal. Go to thereitispod.com for newsletter and support info. Links in bio. Until next time, be good to each other.
The music for the theme song was created by Neil Brooks. The rap was written and performed by Nick Acevedo. The logo for There It Is was created by Jeff Prater. The There It Is podcast is produced by Jason Farr.